friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Well, I'm getting ready to prepare my pot of tea that I'll be brewing later tonight, and I thought I'd take you through the process. It's super easy, but the main thing I wanted to focus on, because I have tons of herbal infusion / tea recipes out there that I'll link to that whole playlist down below. And the way that I brew my teas now more currently has changed since I first started my channel almost 5 years ago, and that is because I've learned more about these things and the best way to brew your teas. Now, the most common way that people will brew their teas, whether they're using dried herbs or fresh herbs, which is what I'm doing today. Usually when I've got the herbs coming in, I'm using them fresh. That's my favorite way when it comes to my teas, but I do dehydrate up a lot for teas through the winter. But the most common way is to heat your water first when you're talking delicate herbs, like all the things that I have in this colander that I'll be talking about in just a minute. You heat your water first, then you pour the hot water over the herb and let it steep, and then you can strain it out. The way I do it is a little bit different, but it's still a matter of being careful when you're talking delicate herbs, which is pretty much going to be anything like flowers and leaves. You got to be careful not to overheat it, and that's why most people will do the heating the water first, then pouring over the herbs. But when you're talking things, more woody things like roots, or like I have here, I have some marshmallow root from my garden, or the astragalus. I'm growing it this year, but I don't, this is a root that I bought. Or your spices like star anise, allspice, cloves, or cinnamon sticks, even dried orange peels. These are all things that I would simmer. You can actually simmer it down and make a what they call a decoction, which is you keep simmering it down until it's very, very condensed. But that's something you only want to do with more woody items. Again, roots and your hard spices like that. So let me talk about what I've got in here, and I'm going to show you how I do my pots of tea, because I'm not making myself just a cup. I make a whole pot at a time. And I think I figured out this is about a quart. I found this silver teapot. It is vintage, and I actually have a video on this that we'd figured out where it came from. I bought it at a garage sale, paid $5 for it because I knew by looking at it it was worth it. But I did a video just on that that's kind of interesting. So I'll put that video in the description box down below if you'd like to learn more about it. But I should have Patrick polish it up for me again. It does get a little tarnished and stained over time. When it comes to my mints like lemon balm and peppermint, this is usually how much I'll use in that pot. And I'll put it directly in there. I usually like to add now to most of my teas, whether it be peppermint or whatever it is, lavender leaf. I usually like to put in a couple of, if they're small like they are right now, because at the time I'm shooting this, I want to make this clear, because this is going to not publish until June. I'm shooting this video on April 29th. So right now my comfrey leaves are most of them are on the smaller size. So when they're this size, I usually put in 2 of those. And then when I get the bigger leaves coming in, I'll put in just one of those leaves. Comfrey tea is really good for you. Now, you can make any of these teas by themselves. You can do a dandelion flower tea, you can do a lemon balm tea, you can do nettle tea, you can do comfrey tea, you can do them all separate. And I do recommend whenever you're trying a new herb for a tea, try it by itself first. Then try mixing. I always like to mix. Part of the reason I do that is I like the benefits I'm getting from some of these different roots or herbs, but I may not care for the flavor of it by itself. And so then I like to mix them in with things that that either have a real strong flavor or I just really like the flavor of. And lemon balm is one of those, and as is peppermint. So I'll mix some of the real healthy herbs that are healing and nutrient dense. I'll put those in with these other things. Now, dandelion flowers do make a tasty tea by themselves and also very nutritious, but I just tend to throw a handful of those in. Looking inside the pot, you can see it's pretty full of herbs, and this is how I like to do that. And then what I'll do is you want to use some kind of clean water. In most cases, it's best to to avoid, if you're on city water, avoid consuming your city tap water if you're able to, especially if it has fluoride in it. I mean, if you don't have any other choice, then at least try to dechlorinate your water before you use it. And I have a video on on the several different ways to dechlorinate your water. But anyway, I simply take, this is filtered rainwater, so we collect and filter our own rainwater, and we have a video just about this. If you'd like to watch that, I'll go ahead and link to it down below along with the other ones. And I just pour that water right over the top of the tea. And yes, you can use distilled water, you can use store-bought water. Just please pay attention to what you're buying at the store. I mean, you got to do the best you can, and not everybody has a way to collect and filter rainwater or to even filter their city tap water. And sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. But especially if you're trying to heal your thyroid, it's really important you get away from fluoride as much as you can. When you're buying distilled water from the store, read the label, because distilled water is not supposed to have anything in it. You should be able to take a TDS meter to your distilled water that you're buying, and it should read 0. There shouldn't be anything in it. However, a lot of the store-bought distilled waters are adding things. Some even go so far as to add fluoride to them. So make sure you're reading the labels and seeing what they're adding in there. Now, it could be healthy things, and if that's the case, then yeah, it'll be fine for making tea. So anyway, I top that off with the water like that, and then in the case of my delicate herbs, I will usually put this, if I'm doing it on the wood stove, this does not go directly on the wood stove. It goes on a trivet, a cast iron trivet, and then on the wood stove there, and I let it heat slowly. Now, on a day like today where I've got lots of sun and I'm able to use the solar power, I use hot plates connected to solar power. I'll put the heat on either low to medium depending on the hot plate, because I have a couple of different brands. They all have different strengths, and so it depends on which one I'm using on where I'll set the heat. If I'm putting it directly on the heat source like that, then I always time it, and I get familiar with how long it takes for that to get it very hot, and then I'll turn it down as low as I can just to keep it warm, and then let it steep. And the reason I do that is because I'm usually in the evenings are when I drink it hot. So Patrick and I will usually have at least 1 cup, and whatever's left the next day, like I have right here, this is the same tea that I'm making right now that I made last night, and I topped off my cup with what was left in this pot before I rinsed it out and then did all this here. And then this I'll drink today. I'll be drinking it right after this video is done. And so that's what I do. And I drink it cold. I like it cold during the day, especially on warmer days. I'll drink it cold like that. I don't need to heat it up. This method is a little trickier because you really got to be paying attention to it when you're using your delicate herbs, because you can easily overcook your herbs. And what's going to happen is if they get too hot or overcooked, it's going to deplete the nutrient and medicinal value in those herbs, and it will also change the flavor. I can always tell when I wasn't paying attention, let my peppermint or lemon balm tea get too hot, and the flavor changes completely. The peppermint it loses all its minty flavor, and it takes on a very odd flavor. I would say kind of more that green flavor like you might get from a nettle tea, but it's not that pleasant at all. And so I know what I've done is I've just probably destroyed any of the benefits I could be getting from that. So I've learned from trial and error to really pay close attention when I'm doing it this way. I just prefer doing it this way because I like to throw all that stuff in there, put the water in, and then just let it get hot and then steep for a while. I like my tea very strong, as strong flavored as I can get it. The best way to do that is to use more herb, though, than to try to cook it longer, because cooking it longer will destroy it and make it not taste good. So pay close attention if you're going to use the method I'm using. Now again, coming back to your woodier herbs and spices, it's okay to do that. It's okay to simmer it, to put it on there and let it get hot. And in fact, the more you cook it, the more you're going to actually release the benefits within those items like that. So it just depends on what you're using. By the time you're watching this video, I'm going to be taking the 2 teas I'll be making most from June and on is peppermint with a little bit of comfrey for the benefits of that, and the lemon balm mixed with the orange mint, because by that point I'll have the orange mint, and I really like the way the orange mint tastes mixed with the lemon balm. So those will be the two I'll be making most of the summer. In the winter is usually when I make my spicy teas. If you're wanting to do a blend of, let's say I want to throw a cinnamon stick in here, well, what I would do first, or even the astragalus root or the marshmallow root, because maybe my throat, because some of you know about my vocal cords and why I sound the way I do. And sometimes my voice will sound rougher on some videos. And if I feel my throat needs more of that soothing, especially my vocal cords, because they've had a hard life, I'm telling you. Well, I've been singing most of my life, and then when I had to give that up because of the nodules on my vocal cords, then I was still teaching, whether it be dance, martial arts, and now YouTube. And so I put a lot of stress on my vocal cords. So the marshmallow root I'll sometimes throw in there. What I do now is I'll take those woody items and I'll simmer them first. Then I'll go back, it's nice and hot by that point anyway, then I'll go back and add my more delicate herbs, whether it be pansy flowers, dandelions, red clover, any of your mints, anything like that, and then add those in and then just let it steep and remove it from the heat, or put it up on a trivet, or turn the heat down as low as I can to keep it just to keep it warm without allowing it to continue to cook at that point. So that's just the way I do it. Again, you might want to stick with the tried and true method of pouring the hot water over your herbs if you're using delicate herbs. And then the other thing I wanted to share is, once you know what herbs are safe for you, for us, most herbs are going to be safe. We don't have allergies that we have to worry about the herbs that we take. We don't have any ailments. We are not on any medications. And so I will mix herbs all the time and try different things. And so I can do that. I can safely do that. Now, if you're on medications, or if you're pregnant, or you have certain types of ailments, you may want to look into each individual herb and find, should I be drinking this or taking this herb on a regular basis or at all, before you start mixing your herbs together. But if you know you can handle any of those herbs, then just start trying it out, seeing what you like. Like, here's an example that I keep meaning to get around to, but if you're a menopausal woman, whether you be that you're past that point or you're entering menopause, a good tea blend would be something like pineapple weed, red clover, raspberry leaf, because these are all very beneficial. These are also beneficial to women who are in childbearing years. So that's an example. Blend them together, try it out, but make sure it's going to be safe for you, because I cannot tell each individual person what herbs or herb combination is best for you. I can only share with you what I do, and I'm always experimenting with my herbs. I'm always mixing and matching different things. Just like using the lavender leaf. Lavender leaf makes a delicious tea, but again, I still like to mix it with other things. And I talk about it in some of those recipes in that playlist that I'll be putting in the description box down below. And then the one more thing I wanted to say is that, as you can see, I really don't measure my herbs. I go by sight. I just throw things in there, again, by experience, according to how much of that certain flavor I want in there. And when it comes to the mints, I usually pile those in there heavy and then go a little lighter on the roots, because I don't really care for that very rooty flavor. And I don't really care for the taste of nettle tea by itself, but I don't mind nettle mixed in with my other herbs. I love to eat nettle. I love to cook it up and saute it. It's so good, but I just don't really care for plain nettle tea for some reason. So just experiment. Don't be afraid to try mixing things. There doesn't have to be this scientific method that you follow. It's mostly about, again, finding out what's best for you, what's safest for you, and making sure you don't overcook your delicate herbs. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and go ahead and share with us down below, what are your favorite herbal tea blends to drink? Just share with us down below, and if it's specific for helping you with different things like allergies, thyroid problems, or whatever, then share that too, so people can learn from you as well. All right, well, thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.